Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband News. 3 states have been approved for their final proposals for BEAD from the NTIA, but they seem to be still waiting for sign-off from NIST. Be right back with more details. Hey, thanks for joining. Rick Husey here with Zcorum with Broadband News. So I want to talk about this. So this is in Broadband Breakfast, an article by Drew Clark regarding a panel that was at the Metro Connect conference that was down in Fort Lauderdale earlier this week. So you see here, even though NTIA approved Louisiana BEAD, delay by NIST keeps shovels at bay, obscure National Institute of Standards Technology agency has kept the state from building broadband. So again, this was at the Metro Connect here. I see Fort Lauderdale. Even though the U.S. Commerce Department agency responsible for broadband officially approved federal funds for Louisiana, Delaware, and Nevada, those state broadband offices are unable to go forward because an unrelated federal agency, the National Institute for Standards and Technology, has not done its routine checkoff. So you're probably familiar with NIST if you're familiar with BEAD, because NIST is actually the organization that put together the Cybersecurity Framework that subgrantees need to meet if they're going to get BEAD funding. So it's got everything that you need for cybersecurity to be able to put that together. And it's a framework basically that they need to follow to ensure that they have a cybersecurity plan in place and that they're following all of those various topics. And by the way, if you're going to be getting BEAD funding, or you just need NIST compliance, cybersecurity for some other reason, like insurance, for example, HIPAA kinds of things, anything that you need to be able to meet that standard, reach out to us, because we can help you get compliant, and we can provide the technology, resources, and those kinds of things. We can make that available to you so you can become NIST compliant for a lot less than what would cost you to do all of that on your own. So. But again, NIST is that agency, but apparently are involved in actually overseeing grants, which I was not aware of until I saw this article, looked into a little bit as well. So you see here the Louisiana Broadband Office Director Thomas Tyler recounted the dilemma that Connect LA, his office, faces in a session on federal broadband funding. This was Tuesday at Metro Connect. Then National NTIA Administrator Alan Davidson approved Louisiana's final proposal on January 13th, 1 week before Inauguration Day. So obviously, a lot of this is going on, in the midst of a transition of power from one administration to another. So that right there is going to cause delays. He says that was supposed to mark the starting gun for Louisiana to begin putting shovels in the dirt for construction under the $42.5 billion BEAD program. Louisiana was the first in the nation to receive approval, but Delaware received its approval on January 14th, and Nevada received it on January 17th. So those are the first 3 states that are out of the gate, and nothing has happened since. I haven't heard any news, and this apparently is why. But funds can't be sent to the states from the Treasury Department until NIST issues a ministerial approval. That can only happen after NTIA's approval, which has officially already occurred. So it seems to be in NIST's court now. NIST is another commerce agency that's basically the grants administrator for NTIA, explained Tyler. Even though NTIA issued an announcement that each of the 3 states' plans and budgets were approved before January 20th, that request for approval didn't get sent over to NIST before the inauguration. So again, you can imagine with the change in leadership, especially this time around with the Trump administration coming in and putting things on hold and releasing a lot of people, and a lot of other people under the impression they maybe release those kinds of things. You can imagine that a lot of things that would maybe be done in that situation now would not either, because you've got just a significant disruption going on right now. So, and I don't think this isn't just for NTIA. It seems to be something that is required for all government agencies, I believe. So. I'll look that in a minute. Let's see, what was I going to do? I was going to talk here about the Louisiana governor. I think there's a link to that. Then I'll get back to this other part. So, says NIST is another commerce agency. Again, both NIST and the NTIA under the Department of Commerce. That is basically the grants administrator. I already read that. Sorry. So, and because of that, when everybody came in with the new administration and kind of stopped working to gauge the room and what was going on, said Tyler. Louisiana, Delaware, and Nevada were left in state limbo. They were officially approved, but without ability to access those approved funds and begin work. We're ready to go, Tyler said in the session. We're ready to really build up the networks that are needed in the state, he said. We have good intel, and that hopefully should happen soon, he said. Hopefully. As with many state-confirmed government officials across the government, Davidson resigned from NTIA on January 20th. No additional state broadband proposals have been approved by the agency since. There's uncertainty about the next steps under the BEAD program, even if many observers expect that the program will still continue. And I think everybody certainly expects it to continue. There's uncertainty as far as, things like this where you've got some administrative hurdles as you've got the change in power. Plus, there are questions about fiber preferences, the questions about whether satellite's going to get more preference than it has right now, questions about some of the rules that were not in the original act that the administration could possibly provide some waivers on, things about environmental kinds of rules, workforce rules that, again, were not in the original act. There's things that are passed in the legislation that have to be done. Things like the having an affordable package, and frankly, having fiber being your preference is in there, even though it's not explicitly mentioned. I've talked about that in a previous video. But there is uncertainty. Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry used the announcement in confirmation of Howard Lutnick as Commerce Secretary to encourage the Trump administration to use the BEAD program to get broadband deployed in heavily rural communities. And there's a link there to another article here in Broadband Breakfast. You see here, Louisiana governor wants BEAD flexibility, keep fiber priority. So he wants flexibility, but he wants fiber to stay a priority, which is reasonable. He says the GOP governor's state, first to get funding, wants easier funding for satellite and wireless. So he's wanting less hurdles to be able to say we would like satellite and wireless in a particular area, but he also understands that fiber should be the preference, should be the priority. So he's got a nuanced view there, which I think is good. So just from this article, on Thursday, Landry released a letter to Howard Lutnick, Trump's pick to head the Commerce Department, that the agency should ditch the alternative technology designation currently given to low Earth orbit satellite and unlicensed fixed wireless broadband under the program due to capacity and interference concerns from them probably, and classify them as reliable broadband services. So in the notice of funding opportunity, there's reliable broadband service, which is considered wired technology like fiber, and surprisingly, DSL should never be in there. DSL should not be considered that. Then you've got cable modem service. Then you've got fixed wireless if it's licensed, or a combination of licensed and unlicensed fixed wireless. And you've got licensed by rule, which would be CBRS spectrum. That would be the Citizens Broadband Radio Spectrum, or whatever. I forget what CBRS stands for. But anyway, CBRS spectrum, which provides very good mid-band 5G spectrum. So those are all considered reliable broadband, but unlicensed fixed wireless and satellite were not. So the way they're defined in the notice of funding opportunity with not being reliable broadband, they cannot be deployed unless it's in an extremely high cost area. So the way the notice of funding opportunity reads is that the states have the ability to set an extremely high cost per location threshold. And when they set that threshold, then anything above that, they can consider the alternative technology. Anything below that, they're not supposed to be able to put in something like unlicensed fixed wireless, or to allow for satellite service in those areas. So not having that would basically take away that extremely high cost per location threshold in the notice and funding opportunity. It would just say, states, we're giving you complete flexibility. They have flexibility now. They have flexibility on where they set that line. So what I think the NTIA was trying to do there, and frankly, maybe it was a good idea. Okay, so what they were trying to do there was say, we want fiber to be the preference. And again, if you look at the act, the actual text of the act, fiber is definitely the preferred technology. While it doesn't name it, it talks about the features and benefits of fiber being lowest latency, the fastest, and really most important, the ability to expand to what end users are going to need, which satellite and fixed wireless can't do. So fiber is definitely the preference in there. So I think what the notice of funding opportunity, the way it's written, is saying that we want fiber to be in as many places as possible. We understand that each state's going to have areas that it's not going to be possible to deploy fiber and to be able to have enough money to have enough money to deploy fiber. So you need to determine where those extremely high cost locations are that you cannot affordably provide fiber and have enough money to get everybody covered. And in those locations, you can consider something else. So it's doing what the governor is asking here, which is saying it's giving them the flexibility. It's just saying you have to have a threshold. Okay, so you got to tell us where that threshold is, rather than just saying you're going to put satellite here and unlicensed fixed wireless there. We want to know that those are areas that you can't reasonably put fiber. So it's almost the same thing. Again, it's just kind of a burden, and it is. It's a burden of having to try to figure out where that line is. If the states could just say, okay, we kind of know where the line is. We don't want to have to set something and then be set in stone on that, because some areas I do understand that. So I think that's where he's going there. And I was going to show this too. So again, this is talking about, well, I'll finish reading the article and then we'll go to this other thing. So he says, let's see here, and right here. Yeah, here it is. That's the letter. And then on Tuesday's panel, Tyler urged the private sector broadband executives in the audience to be more active in supporting BEAD. The lack of advocacy of those who are directly set to benefit from this $42.5 billion at the federal level is astounding to me, he said. It's time to really make your case. Our governor can't do that for everybody. States proceeding with the challenge processes. So notwithstanding the holdup of the first BEAD approved states, other states are continuing in the midst of their challenge approval process. Pennsylvania, New York, Indiana, Missouri, and Connecticut closed their challenge application windows thus far in February. And that's a good point, in that these three states are waiting to get the money. And according to Tyler, the Louisiana Broadband Office manager or director, it sounds like he's maybe got some inside information that things are moving along there. That's just a matter of, again, some red tape between maybe switching over administrations and getting all that done. But despite that, other states are in other parts of the process where they're not waiting on money. They might be waiting. Some of them may have sent things into, and I think it mentions it here in a second, sent things into the NTIA, and they're waiting on approval that maybe that's delayed as well. But, my state, for example, Georgia, is completed their first round of applications, and all of those were supposed to be fiber. So that in Georgia, the first rounds, if you were a subgrantee and were going to apply for that, it had to be all fiber. And the project service areas were large. They're counties, full county-wide project service areas. So there's a possibility that Georgia will have to go to a second round to maybe cover some areas that were not bid on. But they are now going through all of those applications. So they're doing their work now that they'd normally be doing. And again, I'm assuming that they're not yet impacted. And hopefully a lot of these states that are in process will not be impacted, and all of this will be worked out. But these first three states, the ones that were kind of out of the gate, are having to deal a little bit with the delay here, considering they were approved a week and less before less than a week for a couple of these states, as far as when the inauguration took place, right? So Illinois' challenge approval process closes Wednesday. Colorado's closes on Friday, and Virginia's closes on Saturday. Speaking about the process on the panel, Tamara Holmes, director of the Virginia Office of Broadband, highlighted the importance of complying with the challenge deadline on Saturday. She said, we have 133,000 locations that are eligible for BEAD, noting that once the NTIA approves its final approval, the states are under a 12-month deadline to make their broadband awards. And I think most states, I don't think a lot of states are going to wait that long, that 12 months. That we saw, Louisiana is already out there they've made their awards, they're already out there trying to get the broadband in the ground. So, but yeah, there's a 12-month period that states could wait. I don't think they're going to wait. Lori Adams, Vice President of Broadband Policy and Funding Strategy for equipment manufacturer Nokia, highlighted just how significant it was for electronic fiber optic equipment to be manufactured in the U.S. for the BEAD program that's under the Build America, Buy America portion requirements that are in BEAD. She says there's 45 companies that have self-certified products that are manufactured in the U.S. to be compliant with BEAD. The more that is shifted over to the alternate non-fiber technology space means that less is invested in U.S. manufacturing, she said. So I guess the point is there, and I was not aware of that maybe some of that other technology would not be manufactured here in the U.S. So I don't know about that. So anyway, that's a lot of interesting information there. And again, this was new to me as far as NIST being involved with BEAD, other than, again, having developed a framework that subgrantees have to follow for cybersecurity, but apparently they are. So I'm looking into it. So you see here, this is the NIST site. So again, this is for security kinds of things, but also apparently they do act as kind of a clearinghouse between government agencies and subgrantees that are getting funds. So you see here these divisions. You got acquisition management division, financial assistance, agreements management. There's a vision statement here. Sounds a lot like a corporate vision statement. In other words, you read it and you're like, what did I just read? For example, OAAM assures mission success through empowered leadership and a relentless pursuit of excellence, continuous professional development and innovation. We refine the standards for managing acquisitions, agreements, and financial assistance, setting new benchmarks for effectiveness, establishing innovative standards that drive operational effectiveness, cultivating robust partnerships, and encouraging mutual accountability among all stakeholders. And I've got some core values here. And then this is the Office of Acquisition and Management. This is their flowchart, not flowchart, their, what do you call it? You know what I'm talking about. So you got your leadership here, basically the way, who reports to who, what departments report to what department, not so much who reports to who in some cases. But you can see a lot of bureaucracy involved right there. This is the Financial Assistance Agreements Management Office. And again, a vision statement here to be recognized as the center of excellence in awarding and administering all federal financial assistance awards with the professional and expertise that will guarantee NIST and our other partners achieve their goals. So administering all federal financial assistance awards you see there. So I think they're involved in anything, any money that's coming out of the government. So this group, this bureaucracy right here somehow gets involved. So again, bureaucracy is not always a great thing because you have lots of hands in this process, and sometimes things don't get done, especially if there's a shakeup like's going on right now. So their vision statement, as I just read, and then you can see here you've got director, deputy director, and then you've got lots of grants management officers. So it is quite significant what these guys are doing. You've got business operations group, then you've got NIST program support. You got Team A, whatever that is, Team B, Team C, again, supervisory grants management officer, external program support, same thing there. So yeah, that's that. I've linked to a lot of the stuff in the description of this video, by the way, if you want to check it out. Then we've got, there's a manual here. This, I believe, is the manual for this group internally. Department of Commerce Federal Financial Assistance Manual. And you see here it says, this manual is for internal Department of Commerce use only. It's to be used by operating units, grant offices, and all involved in the life cycle of a federal assistance award, federal financial assistance award. This manual is maintained by Financial Assistance Policy and Oversight Division within the Office of Acquisition Management. So, wow. Okay. So then, you got here, it's a 32, how many pages is this? 60, 122 pages of manual internally for how they're supposed to do things. And then I found this as well. This looks to be a external manual or guide for those, for example, what I believe the subgrantees will be looking at when they get their grants. So when the state of Louisiana provides money to the subgrantees, I believe the subgrantees will be getting this. This is Financial Assistance Reference Guide, Essential Tips for Your NIST Award. It says NIST Award. Again, when it says NIST Award, I think it's talking about any award that is coming from the federal government that is passing through this group, which BEAD is. BEAD does go through this. So you see here, welcome to the NIST Financial Assistance Community. Congratulations on your new grant or cooperative agreement from NIST. The reference guide is designed to provide you with the essential elements and answers to the most commonly asked questions of NIST financial assistance recipients, referred to as non-federal entities, throughout this guide. This document contains carefully selected topics designed to assist you from acceptance of your award to closeout after it's completed. So again, it's my understanding from what I'm reading here that this is what would apply to BEAD and any other kinds of federal programs where there are non-government entities getting grants, basically. So I don't think this is just like a NIST grant for maybe something related to cybersecurity or something like that. I believe this is what everybody would having to look at here. Excuse me. So you've got roles and responsibilities, monitoring, compliance, mandatory reporting, and of course we know there is mandatory reporting in BEAD as far as performance testing, those kinds of things. Payments, ASAP for payments, ASAP enrollment, non-ASAP reimbursements. I'm assuming that's a system ASAP and not as soon as possible. Maybe it is. Maybe it is as soon as possible payments. I think it's probably a system. I didn't look at this in depth. Financial and progress reports, identifying prior approval requirements, indirect costs, audits, award closeout. So BEAD, for example, I think it's a 10-year program, so something maybe related to that. If remedies for non-compliance, additional resources links, etc. So again, I think I linked to this in the description as well. So there's a lot going on in the government sometimes when you with these grants. So there's NIST in addition to NTIA, and I guess NIST acts as almost like a technical support arm for those that are providing grants to others. And it looks like right now Louisiana and Nevada and was it Delaware are caught up in that right now in waiting for their approval, for their sign off on BEAD. And again, hopefully a lot of this will be worked out as other states start to get their final proposals approved. And that, there could be a delay with those approval of final proposals because, again, there's probably a lot of uncertainty right now at NTIA as far as leadership. We've got Howard Lutnick's now in as the Commerce Secretary. Ariel Roth was put forward as the new director of BEAD, who basically would be taking Alan Davidson's place. So I don't believe she's been, I don't think she's been confirmed. I think she's just basically been put forward at this point. So, but Howard Lutnick, I'm sure, would be working with whoever is at NTIA and trying to make things happen. But again, if you looked at his past statements, it sounded like he wanted to shake things up. I'll go ahead and put a link to a video that I did about that. I've got some video of Howard Lutnick. I've got some video of Ariel Roth and Ted Cruz from Ted Cruz and Howard Lutnick from his Senate confirmation. Some video of Ariel Roth from a conference she was at like 6 months ago talking about BEAD. And it's obvious from those comments that they are wanting to shake up not just some of the outside kind of rules and regulations that were not in the act, but again, possibly some things related to the low-cost broadband option and prioritizing fiber, because they are talking about, we want to do it as quickly and cheaply as possible, which is the last thing we want. As I mentioned in that video, we don't want to spend too little now and then have to go back and spend a lot more later, because that's what's going to happen if we give more people access to satellite. If we say, well, satellite's fine, we'll do that, we're going to be coming back later and having to give them fiber, because satellite will not grow the way that fiber can grow. So fiber is the preference. That's what we want. If you read the act, as I mentioned, I go through the text of the act. If you read the act, you'll see that fiber is the preference, even if it's not explicitly stated in there. It's obvious from the way it's described that fiber is the preference. So it would be very easy to make a case that the intent of Congress when they passed that bill is that fiber is the preference. So you might want to check that out. I'll go ahead and put that link in the description as well when I'm done here. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I would like that. And go ahead and click the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, ring the bell, and you'll be notified when I'm live. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.